Well, the Montreal Canadiens made it officially official today after naming Kent Hughes general manager of the organization on Tuesday. They introduced him to the media and to the public earlier today, just a few minutes ago, actually. Dennis, your initial reactions to the press conference and the fact that Kent Hughes is now the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens.
A super composed guy for sure. You could tell he was an agent in his prior life. So whether that helps or not, I'm not really sure. He has a prior relationship with Jeff Gordon. And look, here's the situation, Dave. Whether Kent Hughes works or not as a GM, if you trust Jeff Gordon, then you have to trust Kent Hughes at this point. There's a lot of work to do. In the media availability, Jeff Gordon said that no Canadian player had come to him for the trade request, but there's a lot of building to do. And not on the free agent and trade side, Dave, but if you go back through Mark Bergevin's campaign and you look at the first and second round draft choices, it's not a pretty story, and it's part of the reason, and I think a major reason why they are where they are right now. So that has to improve. So the amateur scouting and drafting has to improve, and certainly the development side of the business as well is going to have to be upgraded, because you just can't build a team off of free agents and trades.
No, definitely you can. And previously Trevor Timmons had been running the draft for the Canadiens for so long. Jeff Gordon saying that Martin Lapointe
Yeah.
is currently the one that's overseeing the scouting department and the amateur scouting as well. So he seems pretty confident in him moving forward. They're going to add to their scouting department. They're going to add and build an analytics department. And Kent Hughes had mentioned that he plans on bringing in at least one, by the sounds of things, assistant general manager, and he will have the authority to pick and choose who he wants. But he also wants to utilize and piggyback off of Jeff Gordon's experience and knowledge. It sounds like these two, and Jeff Gordon mentioned this from the get-go, DB, whoever was going to come in as GM was going to complement his skill set, and he would be
Yeah.
able to complement the GM's skill set. So it sounds certainly, and more so now than ever, now that they have a GM, that Gordon and Hughes will be working together in building the future of this team.
Yeah, and you would think as an agent, you think that Kent Hughes would handle the contract side of the business, cutting
No.
deals, making trades, dealing with the salary cap, and then Jeff may be a big picture guy that probably has the first right of refusal on any trades that Kent wants to pull. So I think that the combination can pull. And look, I think Jeff Gordon did a great job in New York. There's no reason why he can't do it in Montreal, but there are some caveats. The media market, playing in Canada, there's a couple of things, a couple of hurdles that they may have to overcome that American teams, or what Jeff Gordon had, experienced in New York. It's going to be a very different experience running the show, I think, in Montreal.
Yeah, it will. And in short order, uh, Gordon and Hughes are heading to Vegas for the Canadiens game. They play the Golden Knights on Thursday. And his first order of business is getting to know his team, getting to know the players on his club. Then he will start to meet everybody else within the management department, the different departments throughout the organization, and then kind of going from there. Uh, but we're, several weeks away from the trade deadline. We still have a lot of time until March 21st, but we kind of don't, especially if you're a team like the
Mm-hmm.
Canadiens that are last in the NHL, have the draft at their own building in July that they're hosting. So these next several months could be very critical for whatever direction the Habs go in.
Yeah, Dave, I don't think you're going to trade the first overall pick. That's
Yeah.
where it stands to be right now. So, but a guy like Ben Sherrod, I think, is the top of the list. He's very high on the TFP top 25 trade list. That's it. And certainly, and we didn't mention this yet, but Dom Ducharme, what happens there? I'm sure he'll have a conversation. The performance on the ice, I don't think would want him coming back as the coach next season, but you never know. But I think that's certainly going to be part of Kent Hughes' evaluation process early on.
Yeah, and that was another item that Ken Hughes had mentioned. He has to get to know the head coach. He has to get to know Dom before making any decisions in that regard. Now, Jeff Gordon kind of hinted when he was brought into the organization that they weren't going to make a coaching change until the end of the season. So perhaps ride things out, especially at this point. What's the difference? You're last in the league. It may be more beneficial if you stay near the bottom than start to climb. But they have a lot of pieces on this team that are signed well beyond next season. You've got guys like Brendan Gallagher, like Jeff Petrie. You even have Tyler Toffoli and Josh Anderson and a few other pieces on this club that could fit nicely in this team moving forward, or could be utilized as trade chips. What do you think the Habs end up doing with some of their core pieces on this club outside of the young guys like Suzuki, Caulfield, Romanov, and so on?
I think for the most part you stand pat, Dave. But the big question is CP31. What
Yeah.
happens with Carey Price? I think that's the huge question, and I think Jeff Molson had addressed this with respect to just him getting better and getting him healthy, and then you worry about it down the line. But that's a situation where he's got to play well, Dave. If he's going to continue to play, he's got to play well because you can't trade that contract. I don't know how you swing a deal to make that move with that much term and that much money, even if you retain what you really don't want to do. So I think that's the question. So the pieces in place, I like. You got to hope a kid like Cole Caulfield just wipe this slate clean. And this was a bad season. He's still very young. But I do like the pieces that they do have. Tyler Toffoli's been out, for an extended period of time, but he's a really hot goal scorer when he gets back on the ice. So I don't think that they're not going to knee jerk this, Dave. They're not going to send like 4 guys out in the summertime. They're going to try to add some pieces. And Dave, what have we talked about for this team since I know you? Like the center ice position. What the 1C? Thank you, Dave. Like they still don't have that. Nick Suzuki, nice trade. He's a 2C at best. So there's a couple of major issues that both Hughes and Jeff Gordon need to tackle.
Yeah, I don't know about at best. I'm still a fan of Nick Suzuki in terms of the potential that's there in being a very strong, reliable two-way center. But I do agree with you in terms of your prototypical number one. I don't think that's him. But if you do find that, the luxury of having that player and Nick Suzuki as your 1-2 is going to be very beneficial. You look at what Philip Danault had done for this club, and now what he's doing in Los Angeles with Kopitar Danault. The Habs ultimately would love to have that somebody and Suzuki. Shane Wright, perhaps? I don't know. We'll see how the balls drop in May with the June or July draft, rather, in the Bell Center this summer. Kent Hughes, this is now your show in Montreal. We wish you the best, and we will be keeping tabs on the Canadiens because I suspect, DB, we'll be talking a little bit more about them as the weeks roll into March. That's Dennis. I'm Dave. We'll catch you next time.